to change. We want to add stuff to our lives, and that's great. But it's going to be easier to keep that new thing in your life if you get rid of some old stuff. And so I've been doing the same thing, thinking about what I want to do differently next year, and thinking about some of the things that I just don't have to do that I thought I did at one point. So I listed out 64 here, and I'm going to categorize them as either don't got to do, maybe got to do, or definitely you still got to do these things. They are broken down between like startup activities, founder activities, and then just general life stuff. And along the way, I'll give my little anecdotes if I have one for any of these. So let's start with an easy one in the startup category. Supporting SSO. This is for tech people, I guess. Single sign-on. You don't gotta do that. You don't gotta do that. Definitely not right away. Along the same lines, you don't gotta A/B test right away. You're not there yet. You don't gotta have canary deployments. Definitely not. And if you're a small team, do you need an assistant? No, you don't gotta do that. I had an assistant for a good portion of this year, and I loved it. But you don't gotta do it. You don't gotta have SEO. Definitely helpful. You don't gotta have a Discord. You don't have to have an affiliate program. Here's a trickier one. You don't have to respond to emails. Like, there's not an email police who's gonna arrest you if you didn't respond to an email after a certain amount of time. Same with texts. Same with DMs. Same with comments in your videos. You can just look at them and then move on. Like, this might free up a lot of time. You just don't have to do this. I'm telling you, you don't have to. It's amazing. What's next? You don't have to have a personal brand. Definitely don't need that. You definitely don't got to raise venture capital, especially not in this world we live in now. Pay taxes. You got to pay taxes. I'm going to put this one on the right. You just pay your taxes. You don't have to go to conferences, though. You don't even have to form a company right away in the U.S. This is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a YouTuber and a developer. But as I understand it, if you're a single member, if you're just doing your own thing and you're collecting payments, it can come out of your personal taxes at the end of the year, and you don't have to like formally create a company off the gate. There are some benefits of having a company, including liability protection, tax benefits, clout, seeming like you know what you're doing, but you don't need to have a company to make money on the internet or online. And the same goes for having insurance for your company that you don't have. You don't have to have employees first. You don't have to create a business plan first. And I had mentors when I first started who said, stop everything and make a business plan. And I wasted like 2 weeks making this massive document that was irrelevant after about 5 days. What a waste of time. You don't got to do that. Definitely not. Okay, talking to customers. I'm going to say you got to do this one. I don't think you can get away with avoiding customers forever. Actually, I bet you could by just collecting data passively and observing what's working. So I'm gonna put this in maybe if you have good analytics and you can just like watch people. But you probably should talk to customers. You don't need a mentor. I spent a lot of time trying to get a mentor, then finding a mentor and realizing mentor doesn't know what he's talking about because he's just a retiree who never actually founded anything, or I had one who was a founder, but he was bad at his job then, and he just didn't provide a lot of value. And then I spent a lot of time trying to convince someone I wanted to mentor me that I'd be a good mentee. It's just like you don't need that. You don't need it. You don't gotta do it. You don't have to have OKRs. I think they're good, but you don't have to have it. You definitely don't have to add AI to your product. Do you have to have a logo? No. In fact, I worked for a startup company for years they did have a logo, but they didn't have like a landing page. They were venture backed. And that was, believe it or not, like a competitive advantage for them to not have a website. So if they can get by without a website after rounds of funding, you can get by for the first couple months without a logo. So you don't have a landing page. Like I said, I think you have to be honest with investors, at least eventually, legally. I think you're going to get hit with it. Shout out Theranos if you don't do that. If you do that for long enough, if you lie to investors long enough, I think they have a right to come after you. You don't have to open a business bank account. For the same reasons you don't need a company right away. But you probably should eventually. I'm running out of space for things you don't gotta do. You don't have to have a co-founder. I spent a lot of time on this one, and I realized, you know what? I can just move forward and not tie my success and progress to having a piece of paper that says someone's a co-founder with me. You don't have to get into YC. YC's cool. I tried to get into YC. I applied. They said no. And I'm still going, and it's fine. You don't need them. Nothing against YC. I think they do a lot of great work. You don't have to publish a blog. You don't have to post on your social media platform, whatever one you're thinking. I think you do have to help people. This one's going in gotta. I think if you don't help people, they're not going to pay you, and then you won't be around eventually. I also think you have to ask for money. I think that should happen after you've helped people. But if you don't ask, I don't think it's just magically going to show up in your account, whether it's personal account or business account. And I think you have to ask for attention or for time. So it probably goes in this order, like asking someone for something like time or feedback, and then they give it to you, and then you help them, and then you ask for money, and then they give that to you, and then you're in business. You definitely don't gotta be on multiple platforms. I'm so happy I've just shipped my app on the web, and I've resisted multiple platforms, and like mobile especially. I even started web and Electron or desktop, and life got so much easier when I cut out the desktop, and things are fine. And if you don't believe me, just look at your Google Calendar. Where's your Google Calendar? It's on the web. It's not on your desktop. If a $1 trillion company is getting by without a PWA or a desktop app, you and your little startup can get away with just being on the web. I think it's okay. All right, you can't run. Can you not run out of money as a startup? What happens if you run out of money? You go bankrupt, and then what? Then your official entity is over, and then you got to start a new one. So I guess technically, you can't run out of money. You could go bankrupt and then just start over again. That's what people do. But I'll put it here. I don't advocate for running out of money as someone who's done it before. Not like to the literal extreme of having to declare bankruptcy, but just to the extreme of not being able to spend time on the thing anymore because I need to get a regular job. You do have to communicate security breaches legally. You do have to have a terms of service and privacy policy. I think you gotta back up data. At least if you put it in here, you gotta. You don't gotta ship an MVP fast. Look at Superhuman for an example. Although I think you should. And you don't gotta have a niche, but it's gonna be hard to compete without one. So I think this will probably go hand in hand without shipping fast. If you don't ship fast, and you don't narrow your niche, I think you're just going to be high risk of running out of money. But look at this list, man. Look at this list. It's like, I hope this gives a sense of relief here. You really gotta just ask for something, in the form of time. And to do that, you have to have something to offer: a PDF, a Notion template, a website, a newsletter, an app, a YouTube channel, whatever, Instagram account, and you offer it to people, and then it helps them, and then you ask for money, and then you keep doing that enough where you don't run out of money. And then once you're making money, you got to pay taxes on it. And along the way, you got to be honest with your investors if you have investors. And then along the way, if something bad happens security-wise, you got to communicate it. And along the way, you got to have a term of service and privacy policy. What I miss here? Because it's like I'm trying to boil it down to just like, what do you actually have to do? Where if you don't do these things, like something really bad happens. You don't pay taxes, IRS comes after you. You don't be honest with investors, they sue you. You don't ask for attention, you don't have any customers. You don't communicate security breaches, law, legal people come after you. And same thing without the privacy policy in terms of service. I hope that was fun. I have some other ones that are more personal now, more personal in nature. Let's see. You don't have to sleep 7 to 9 hours. You don't have to. You don't have to. Do you have to pay a rent or mortgage? I'm going to say maybe. You could live with friends or family. You could live in a tent. You could live in your car. You could be a traveling homesteader for rich people in LA County. I don't think you have to. Not everyone has rent or a mortgage and they're getting by. So, okay, you don't have to do that. You definitely don't have to celebrate the holidays. You don't have to go out on weekends. You have to pay taxes and tickets. I'm going to put this one over there. You definitely don't have to watch Netflix. You don't have to eat meat. You could be vegetarian. You don't have to eat vegetables. You could be carnivore and have a little vitamin. You don't have to go to the gym, work out at home. You don't have to watch the news. People will tell you. I can attest to this one. Not watching the news or following the news really is amazing and saved me a ton of time. You don't have to cook. You don't have to buy new clothes. You don't have to go on vacation. You don't have to use credit cards. I know a full-grown adult who's getting by just fine. He doesn't trust himself with a credit card, and he's okay. And before you say he's not going to have good credit and blah, 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 remember, he doesn't need to do this. And if he does, he could build credit quickly, I'm sure. And if he can't, he can reach out to me or other people who can help him. Like, there are other ways. You don't have to have a phone. You don't have to buy a house. You don't have to have kids. You don't have to save for retirement. A lot of people don't. I don't want to say most, but a lot of people don't. Although I think you should if you can. You don't have to. You definitely don't have to get married. You don't need a dog or a cat. You don't need to drive a car. I biked for years in a city, and I'm happy with that decision. I got really lean from biking everywhere, especially in the winter. When you're biking in the winter, you burn some fat, bro. And it's like free cardio there and back. You don't even have to think about it. I do think you have to have income eventually. You have to eat something eventually, and you have to sleep a little bit eventually, and you have to go to the hospital if you're going to die. You don't need to have goals. You don't need to shower. I know a guy who doesn't shower every day. He's fine. He doesn't even stink that bad. And you don't have to change your clothes every day. So what do you got to do in normal life? Pay taxes, have income, and not die. Yeah, it's really death and taxes at the end of the day. Like, that's what I'm seeing for both the startups and for the personal life is if you owe people something, you got to give it to them. Otherwise, bad things will happen, whether it's communication or a portion of your revenue or I guess that's it. And here, yeah, if you owe law enforcement or the IRS something, either money or, well, money, you got to give it to them. And, yeah, I guess your landlord or the bank for your mortgage. Look at all these things you can just not do on the left. This makes me so happy. I love cutting out stuff. The more I age, I realize like the finesse of life is not adding things and making life more complicated. It's actually removing things and making life simpler. I think that's the best ROI. Instead of trying to compete on executing all these things in this left column better than your competition, it's a lot easier to just not do these things and then compete on a completely different dimension. And this whole idea came from someone who does that masterfully. Someone I always like looking to for funny advice or just little life little glimpses at someone who just does life his own way, and that's Derek Sivers. He's a startup guy. He's a founder who sold his company for $22 million, I think, but then he sent it out to a charitable trust. And I don't even know how he makes his money right now, but he's doing fine, I'm sure. And he posted this thing recently that says, "Have I been married?" And it's a really interesting blog. He talks about his first love, and they were together for 6 years, and then she dumped him. And then this other girl from Sweden, it looks like they were seeing each other and they were in love, but she couldn't stay with him because of immigration laws, so they just got married secretly, grudgingly. They didn't tell anyone, not even their best friends or their parents. And after 6 years, they broke up, and I'm assuming they got a divorce too, although he doesn't say that. And then it was over. And then he got married again. Let's see, what's the story with this one? Della, who was dating for a few months, and then she was like, "I can't travel unless we're married." And he was trying to do the opposite of his instincts, so they got married. And he instantly, it was instantly clear we made a huge mistake and we broke up after a year. Okay. She found out she was pregnant, so we got back together for 2 really difficult years, then broke up for good. She's the mother of my boy and lives a few minutes away. Okay. We used our marriage certificate to get residency and citizenship in these places. I don't know if he got divorced. Well, can you be married to multiple people? So he must have got divorced to the first one, I think. He has 2 marriage certificates, and they just felt like travel documents. Yeah, he's never experienced a real marriage, he says. One experience I've never had. And then there's more. Oh, okay. I'm not trying to get into the weeds about any of these relationships, but what I'm showing is this guy thinks about marriage differently. He would put in this column like, you don't have to have a massive wedding and just stay with the same person and post on Instagram everything about your marriage or your relationships, or have a 5-year courting process. You can just get married because you want to go on a road trip with Della. And I'm inspired, bro. Like that. This guy is just different, and he's wildly successful by my measure of success, which is living like a life that is true to him and having a spirit that I think is in honor of the kind of man he was called to be. And I'm trying to do that too. I think we're all trying to do that. So that's why if you have something that came to mind or an experience about an activity that you felt obligated that you had to do, and then you realize that you actually don't have to do this, and I didn't list it in here either as a founder or as just a person, let me know. I'd love to know what I'm missing and cut out more stuff. And as we head into the new year, I wish you luck with your goal setting and your cutting out stuff you don't got to do. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.